I'm sorry to share this with everyone, but I never thought I'd be the one posting about catching a cheater. Yet here I am, heart in shambles, trying to make sense of what happened. They say love blinds you. I never realized just how true that was until 2 weeks ago. I met James 3 years ago at a mutual friend's barbecue. He was charming, attentive, and made me laugh harder than anyone ever had. Our relationship moved quickly. Within 6 months, we moved in together, and everything seemed perfect. He brought me coffee every morning before work, remembered tiny details about my day, and made me feel like the center of his universe. The red flags were there, I see that now. The late nights at work that became more frequent. The way he'd turn his phone face down whenever I entered the room. The sudden password changes on his devices. But I trusted him completely, so I pushed those doubts aside and blamed my own insecurities. It was a Tuesday when everything fell apart. James had left for a business trip to Chicago, something that had become routine over the past few months. I was cleaning our apartment when I found a receipt tucked in his desk drawer, a restaurant bill from a place downtown, dated the previous night. Not Chicago. Right here in our city. My stomach dropped. I called his office with shaking hands, only to learn there was no business trip scheduled. The secretary seemed confused, saying James had simply taken personal days. 12 years of building trust crumbled in an instant. I sat on our couch for hours, the receipt burning a hole in my palm, debating what to do. Part of me wanted to call him immediately and demand answers. Another part needed proof before confronting him. I chose the latter. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every memory replayed in my mind with a new, suspicious filter. Was our entire relationship built on lies? I went through his drawers, searching for anything else he might have hidden. Inside his winter coat pocket, I found a movie ticket stub, dated during another business trip 2 months prior. I felt sick, physically ill, but I still needed more. In the morning, I did something I never thought I would do. I checked his email. His password was my birthday, which now felt like another cruel joke. I scrolled through his inbox, heart racing, until I saw her name, Emily. Dozens of emails, dating back almost a year. Miss you already. Can't wait to see you again. When are you telling her? Each message was like a knife twisting deeper. There were photos I couldn't bring myself to open fully. Plans they'd made together. Promises about their future. My future was being erased by a woman I'd never met. I printed several emails and placed them in an envelope. Then I texted James asking when his flight was landing, playing along with his lie. Around 8 p.m., he replied, adding a heart emoji that made my blood boil. I told him I'd make his favorite dinner to welcome him home. The hours crawled by as I set our dining table with candles, wine glasses, and the envelope of emails as his place setting. At 7:45, I heard his key in the lock. He called my name with such convincing warmth that for a split second, I questioned everything I'd discovered. In the dining room, I answered, my voice surprisingly steady. He walked in, suitcase still in hand, and froze when he saw my face. "What's wrong?" he asked, eyes darting to the envelope on the table. "How is Chicago?" I asked, pouring myself a glass of wine. "Busy. Meetings all day." The lie rolled off his tongue so easily it stunned me. "Interesting," I said, sliding the envelope toward him. "Open it." His face changed as he realized what was happening. He didn't even need to look inside. "I can explain," he started, those 3 words confirming everything. "A year, James?" "With Emily." My voice finally cracked. "Were you ever going to tell me, or was I just supposed to wait at home forever while you built another life?" The fight that followed was a blur of accusations, tears, and half-formed excuses. He claimed it wasn't serious at first, just a mistake that spiraled. He said he loved me but felt trapped. Every explanation made it worse. By midnight, he was gone, taking only a suitcase of clothes and leaving behind 3 years of what I thought was love. The first few days after he left were the hardest. I moved through our apartment like a ghost, finding traces of his betrayal everywhere. A woman's hair tie under the couch, Hotel key cards hidden in book pages. The double life he'd been living became clearer with each discovery. I called in sick to work and spent days in bed, replaying every moment of our relationship, trying to pinpoint exactly when the lies began. Friends called, but I couldn't bear to explain what had happened. The humiliation felt as painful as the betrayal. On the fourth day, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry. I didn't know about you until last week. This isn't your fault." Emily, my heart pounded as I stared at her name on my screen. She was real. Not just emails and suspicions, but a person reaching out. I didn't respond, but her message haunted me. Had James lied to her too? How many lives was he willing to destroy? A week after discovering the affair, I finally told my best friend Katie everything. She came over immediately with ice cream and wine, listening as I poured out every detail between sobs. When I finished, she looked at me with an odd expression. "What?" I asked, wiping my eyes. "There's something you should know," she said hesitantly. "I saw James with a woman at Riverfront Park 2 months ago. They were holding hands. I convinced myself I was mistaken because I couldn't believe he would do that to you. I'm so sorry I didn't tell you." Another blow. Another person who had seen what I couldn't. I wasn't just betrayed by James, but by my own willing blindness. That night, after Katie left, I scrubbed our apartment clean of any trace of him, packing his remaining belongings into boxes and pushing them into the spare room. I changed the locks the next day. 2 weeks after discovery, James came by to collect his things. I made sure to be out, leaving the boxes in the hallway. When I returned, they were gone, replaced by an envelope containing his key and a 5-page letter I still haven't been able to read completely. The emotional whiplash continued when I received a friend request from Emily on social media. Curiosity won over dignity, and I found myself scrolling through her profile. She was beautiful, yes, but more striking were the similarities between us. Same taste in books, similar style, even our haircuts were alike. It was as if James had tried to replicate me while seeking something different. Most devastating was finding photos of them together dating back 18 months, while he and I were celebrating anniversaries, planning vacations, discussing our future. In one photo, he was wearing the watch I had given him for his birthday. I blocked both their accounts that night and deleted all our photos together. Erasing digital memories was easier than erasing the real ones, though. Those stayed, playing on repeat whenever I closed my eyes. The rage came in waves. Some mornings I woke up fine, almost forgetting what happened, before reality crashed back. Other days, I couldn't get out of bed, paralyzed by memories of our relationship juxtaposed with images of his deception. 3 weeks after discovery, I found myself outside Emily's apartment building. I hadn't planned to go there. I was simply driving aimlessly when I realized where I was. I knew her address from an envelope I'd found in James's things. I sat in my car for an hour, not knowing what I wanted to happen. Did I want to confront her? Thank her for reaching out? Verify her side of the story? In the end, I drove away without doing anything. Whatever answers she might have wouldn't heal me. This was my journey to process alone. Friends suggested therapy, dating apps, yoga retreats, anything to move on quickly. But grief doesn't work that way. Betrayal doesn't heal on a timeline. Some days, I hate him with a burning intensity that scares me. Other days, I miss the person I thought he was with an ache that feels physical. 1 month after discovery, I ran into James at a grocery store. I'd been avoiding our usual places, but forgot that this particular store was near his office. He looked awful, unshaven, thinner, with dark circles under his eyes. For a moment, seeing him suffer gave me satisfaction. "How are you?" he asked, his voice small. "Getting better every day you're not in my life," I replied, surprised by my own strength. He nodded, accepting the blow. "I know you probably don't want to hear this, but it's over with Emily too. It wasn't worth losing you." "You're right," I said, turning away. "I don't want to hear it. Walking away from him was the first moment I felt power returning to my body. His validation wasn't necessary for my healing. 6 weeks after discovery, I finally opened his letter. It was what you'd expect: apologies, explanations, declarations that he still loved me. What struck me was the selfishness that permeated every word. Even in his remorse, he centered his own feelings, his own journey. I burned the letter in my kitchen sink and watched the flames consume his words. It felt ceremonial, necessary. 2 months after discovery, I went on my first date. It was awkward and ended early, but it was a step. I wasn't ready for someone new, but I was ready to remember that life continues. That trust, though shattered, can be rebuilt first with myself, then maybe someday with someone else. The most important lesson came gradually. This wasn't my failure. I didn't miss the signs because I was stupid, but because I loved completely. My capacity for trust wasn't a weakness. It was strength that someone exploited. 3 months after discovery, I no longer cry myself to sleep. The apartment feels like mine now, redecorated and rearranged. I've reconnected with friends I neglected during my relationship and started a photography class I'd always wanted to take. Small victories, but meaningful ones. The pain hasn't disappeared. It probably never will completely, but it's changed form, becoming less about what I lost and more about what I've discovered about myself. Resilience, boundaries, self-respect. If you're reading this and going through something similar, know that the emotional roller coaster eventually slows down. The highs and lows become less extreme. You learn to trust your instincts again. Most importantly, you realize that someone else's deception doesn't define your worth or your capacity to love. Today marks 6 months since I found that restaurant receipt. I'm not over it, I'm through it. I've carried the experience with me, learned from it, been transformed by it. The woman who trusted blindly is gone, replaced by someone stronger, wiser, and more compassionate toward herself. I never expected to be telling this story, but I'm no longer ashamed of being the one who was betrayed. His choices reflect his character, not mine. And while I wouldn't wish this journey on anyone, I'm grateful for where it's led me back to myself, standing on solid ground, ready for whatever comes next.